You don't have to. I don't care what you have to. I don't care what anybody says. If you got a supervisor or a watch commander or whatever that hides in the office, he's useless. Absolutely useless. You should be on the road. Clinton Jaws. Guys, there's a website out there. It's called clintonjaws.com. You could buy things on it, I think. There's also another website out there called thegoldenbadge.com. I don't know if you could see this, but retired members, current members, auxiliary members, you can get one of these, put it back in your wallet. Okay, my last... I don't really know why I'm going to go down this road. I don't know why I'm going to start the podcast this way, but maybe it'll make sense. And you're going to learn something a little bit more about me, I think. But I was reviewing one of my a couple podcasts ago, and I talked about a girl at a bar and how I got her a hamster cage, and she could care less about me now. She seen me at the beer and wine store, pretended not to know me. And I started thinking this morning, I liked that about me when I was a cop, that I was out and about. And I didn't hide in the office. I think a lot of police officers hide in the office. But I got in trouble. Figure this out. Help me out. I got in trouble multiple times for not being in the office. Some of my bosses liked it when I was on the road. Some of my bosses wanted me in the office doing nothing. Very odd. Really strange. Because when I learned in Duncan from a great watch commander there, he was out on the road with the guys. He was helping out the guys. And I liked that about him. And the members appreciated it. I really did learn from the best in Duncan. And I thought I was going to be something when I went to Langley. I was going to share my experience and my knowledge. And wiseness. That didn't work. Nobody cared. I remember... Okay. I know I'm in Duncan, guys. I got about 4 years. Maybe 5, but I think it's 4. I'm an acting watch commander now. When my watch commander is not there, I would step in. And this particular watch commander, he was very often not there. And the guys liked it. The guys liked it when I was the acting watch commander because I would conclude their files. I would help them out, conclude their files, get rid of them. The files aren't going anywhere, so I'd get rid of them. It was fun. It was fun being an acting watch commander. But we had a rule, and it's a strange rule now that I think about it. Let's say we were short on the watch. I'm acting watch commander. I need to call in somebody. Well, some of these members back then, they had 20 years service. They're constables, 20 years service. Way more than me. But when I would call somebody in, like a guy that had 20 years service, or even another watch commander, didn't matter, I would stay as the watch commander. I was his supervisor that day, which sounds weird. I would never call somebody in and then go, oh, you're the watch commander now. No, this is my team, okay? I lead my team. You don't. So you don't get to be watch commander. I'm the watch commander. So another guy, an acting watch commander with 20 years experience from another watch, comes to our watch to work. I start my shift like how I always do. We have a briefing. I go into my office. I read a few files, maybe spend an hour. I go on Prime, PERS, or whatever it was back then. Make sure our queue is all nice and cute. Go for breakfast, and I'd hit the road. And I drive around. I'm an acting watch. I'm a watch commander of the day. Sometimes I'd have to do a JJP hearing before I did all this. But I would never stay in the office because I hated the office. It's useless. To me, I think the office is useless. This guy, this constable that we called in, I come back around lunchtime, okay? I probably take a couple of files. I go to a couple of files with my guys. He comes back and he's frustrated. He's wound up. He's shaken. And he's upset with me. And I'm like, what's with this guy? He's like, Clint, where have you been? I'm like out and about. He goes, you're the acting watchman. You have to be in the office. I've been in the office the entire time, helping out front desk and answering questions and stuff like that. And I'm like, I think his name was Russ, but I don't know. No, it wasn't Russ Hayward. It was another guy. And I go, can you give me a reason why I need to be in the office? Your phone might ring. Somebody might be trying to get a hold of you on your phone. And I'm like, the phone answers itself, Russ. We got an answering machine. Why would I stick around the office to answer phone calls? I'm not a secretary. We got employees for that. That'd be pretty stupid. I'm just going to sit in my office and wait for the phone to ring and answer it. Well, people come to the front counter, and that's true. A lot of people come to the front counter. And the front counter ladies can't answer the question because they're not knowledgeable. So somebody comes to the front counter. Karen doesn't know the answer. Karen comes to me. Clint, I got somebody at the front counter. They want to know if they can tow 3 vehicles behind their truck. Can you go talk to them, please? Useless, stupid stuff like that. And I'm like, Russ, I got a telephone, man. I got a cell phone. Okay, if the front counter lady really needs to get a hold of me, if she's really stuck, she can call me. And I'll help her out over the telephone while I'm in my cop car. Doing real work. You don't have to, I don't care what you have to, I don't care what anybody says. If you got a supervisor or a watch commander or whatever that hides in the office, he's useless. Absolutely useless. You should be on the road. Yes, I understand that you have to be in the office sometimes. There's things that are going on that you have to be there. But you could always come back to the office. If the guard room has a problem, you drive back to the guard room. You don't have to stick in the office. A lot of these members, a lot of these bosses hide behind their desk. I went to Langley. I couldn't believe it. Something like 4 corporals, a couple of sergeants and a staff sergeant. Nothing but bosses. Barely left the office. Left it for dinner and breakfast. That was it. Nothing going on in Langley. Telling you, there's 16 constables on a watch. So I found that so bizarre. That people, okay, I guess I'm really going to talk about this. This happened 2 days before I quit the RCMP. Quit, retired, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm going to back it up first. I'm in Port Alberni. And the constables on the watch, they're writing this test, okay? They want to become a corporal. You have to write a test first. It's test day. Nobody calls anybody in on the watch to help us out while they write their damn test. So I'm out and about and I'm taking calls, which is kind of actually normal. I go to Walmart. I remember it clear as day. Crazy guy in Walmart. You know those things when you go into Walmart and when you leave Walmart and they're like security things, they go beep, 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 beep if you have something in your pocket. He freaks out because he's nuts and he breaks it. So I get called. I go to it because there's nobody else that can go to the file. While I'm at the file, my staff sergeant goes up to a constable named Chris who's at the computer. minding his own business, working. And the staff sergeant says, Chris, do you know where Clint is? And Chris says something like, no, I have no idea where he is. All hell broke loose. It's so bizarre. This is so bizarre. I mean, you must think sometimes when I tell you these things, oh yeah, I'm sure it went down like, this is exactly how it went down. I go back to the detachment. I'm sitting at my seat. He comes in, shuts the door. And Clint, I got to ask you something. I'm like, okay, go ahead. Where were you? I'm like, where was I? I was at Walmart. I took a file. You know why? He didn't even listen to that part. You know, I almost went on the radio and said, Clint, where are you? And I said, I was at Walmart taking a file. You know, your team is they threw you under the bus. And I'm like, what? How'd they throw me under the bus? I went up to Chris and I asked him where you were. And he said, I don't know where Clint is. Threw you right under the bus. And I'm like, he's almost convincing me that he did throw me under the bus, but I'm confused. Are you confused? I'm confused. So I start digging. I'm like, how is that throwing me under the bus? He didn't know where I was. They threw you under the bus, Clint. Okay? I want you in the office more. And when he left, I took every single item on my desk because I was fed up. And I just wiped it onto the floor. And I go up to Chris. I'm like, well, am I in the Twilight Zone? And I go, Chris, what happened to you? The staff sergeant's all mad at me because he's saying that you threw me under the bus. Chris is like, what the hell are you talking about? He came in and asked me where you were, and I said, I don't know where Clint is. Bonkers. These are the mind frames that you sometimes have to work for. Sometimes you don't stand a chance. Story's way too long, but there's a finish to it. You know, I get worked up even reliving this, thinking about it. You know, people say, well, you should go talk to somebody. What? Isn't it worse to talk to people? Like you just get mad over again. How does that help you? They just sit there, they don't say anything. Oh yeah. Well, then what happened? Relive it. So I'm going to put, here we go. So I'm working one night. How do I start this one? We have to call in a guy for overtime, okay? The sergeant calls in a guy for our watch for overtime. Long story short, well, it's not going to be short. We work the shift. At the end of the shift, like 6 a.m, this kid that worked overtime on our watch was talking to my sergeant who was starting his day shift. And the sergeant's like, how was your night shift? And for whatever reason, this constable said, I didn't see Clint all night. And the sergeant's like, what? What do you mean? No, I didn't see him all night. I don't know that this conversation is going on, but I start my next block, and there's a documented piece of paper in my basket. And he had documented the conversation that he had with this constable. And he was very disappointed and angry with me, this sergeant, that he heard that this constable didn't know where I was all night long. And I'm like, he accuses me without even getting my side, like what police officers do, right? We get both sides. We investigate. And I don't even understand what he's angry with. I don't even know what's the issue. Who cares if the idiot didn't see me all night? There's probably a pretty good reason. Want to hear the reason, guys? It was the busiest night in Port Alberni. That's the reason. It was Salmon Derby weekend. It was Salmon Festival weekend. That is the busiest day, the busiest weekend in Port Alberni every single year. Every single year. Sometimes we get auxiliaries, like 5 or 6 of them, and they just stay at the festival. They stay at the beer gardens. They make sure that things don't get haywire. I was out and about all night long, doing probation checks, bar checks, at the festival, going to calls. I'm at the festival. I'm at the Salmon Derby Festival. I'm in the beer gardens talking to a table of people. The inspector of our police station walks by with his family and waves to me. And I'm thinking in my head, well, I know that he loves that. Oh, good. He's showing presence. That's awesome. That's where I was, stupid. Where was Clint all night? That's where I was, you dummy. Idiot. Just talk to the inspector. He'll tell you he's seen me. Never, ever did I ever get a chance to voice my side of it. Because I left 2 days later. I'm like, ugh. I'm like, oh, no. I'm outie. He puts the paper in my slot and he goes, well, discuss this in 1 month because I'm now on the 30 rock. He's gone for a month. Oh, man. You know, my last 4 months of my career were the worst. They were the worst. It was a fight. I even talked to, there was a guy in Tofino. He was a rep for the RCMP. I forget his name. It's weird. He was in Tofino forever. Or Ucluelet. Owned a house in Ucluelet. I think he works for the MPF now. But I called him up. I'm like, there's something weird going on with me here in Port Alberni. And I was calling up quite a bit. Tim, Jeff, I can't remember his name. And I remember him saying to me, Clint, you're the flavor of the week. And I'm like, week? You mean months? And he goes, they're out for you. They're out to get you. And I'm like, whoa. Why would you say that? Don't say that. I knew it was going to be a fight that I would win. I would win the fight, and I'm probably not making too much sense to you guys right now. But it was what's that going to cost me? At the end, I'll win the fight, but the fight is going to cost me. It might cost me my family. What consequences will my family have if I go through this fight? Like, the stress I'm going to put on them. I can't put them through it. Now, if you guys have a problem, maybe you got 10 years, 13 years. You need to fight. You need to fight like hell. You really do. If my story is somewhat similar in any way, even if you got 1 year, you need to fight. Me? No. I was done fighting. Talk about done fighting. And you know what? Oh, I'm not. Forget it. Moron, idiot, stick.
I didn't see him all night. Oh, where's Clint? I almost went on the radio. Clint, where are you?
Idiot. God. I remember sitting at my desk, night shift, and I'm like, okay, I had an all right career. Maybe it's time to hang it up, right? Like, what? I'm not saying I was perfect, but my God, there's some really nutty members out there. I was probably starting to turn into one. It could be, when you're young in your career, you can take it. But as your career goes on, the littlest thing, you'll blow a gasket. Because there were so many other things before that. You know what? I don't even know if that made sense. I think I told you this story because of Tim Mills. Tim Mills, ERT member, right? ERT member. He led the ERT team, his team, when Wortman killed 22 people, including a police officer called Heidi Stevenson. It happened something like on a Friday night where Wortman was killing all these people. And Mills, him and his team were working all night into the morning. and into the afternoon looking for this guy. Scary situation, coming across dead body after dead body. He came across Heidi Stevenson's body. Could you imagine? And the ERP members, I'm telling you guys right now, ERP members are the best of the best. I remember being in Duncan, and I have my gun out, and I'm looking for a guy with a gun. We call ERT. Paul Minkley shows up with his carbine. The relief that the ERT members give members, it's incredible. It is one of the most important units in the police force. And valuable. So valuable to have them. Because we just got little pea shooters, and they come in and they save the situation. And they're brave. And I don't know, they just got good personalities. They're good people. They're like dog handlers, like all the dog handlers. I mean, if you have a party, you want ERT and dog handlers to show up. That's who you want to show up. So he goes through that. Him and his team go through that. And they ignore him for a week after. They ignore his requests. They don't ask him how he's doing. Tim asks. He puts in a request. See, what happens is there's part-time ERT members on this team, okay? They were told, okay, now you got to go back to your police station and go back on GD and go take some BS calls. Tim is sticking up for them, saying, hey, hold on. We need to decompress here. Do not send them back to their detachments. Keep us together so we can decompress together. Does that make sense? Makes pretty good sense, right? After what they just went through? Pretty easy request to fulfill, right? Keep them together. They don't want to. The RCMP doesn't want to. No, they need to go back. They need to go back on GD. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You go through something like that. Why do you think cops go drinking at night and swing shift after your 2 day shifts? It's part of the reason. They wanted to hang out and mourn together. Fix each other. They didn't want to talk to a doctor. They wanted to continue to work together. That's the best medicine. It's not sitting down and talking to a doctor. It's talking to each other, having each other there, going through it together. And he wasn't asking to leave. He wasn't asking to go on leave. He was asking to work. They weren't asking to go on leave. They say no to him. They say no, go away, pound sand. A week later, 2 weeks later, Tim quits. 5 other members go off. Tim quits. Now, people behind the scenes, they're like, why is he doing this? Why is Tim doing this? Is he doing this for a case to have a full-time ERT team? I think that's why he's doing it. They're saying stuff like that. Members are saying stuff like that. It's documented. I read it. Well, that's a load of crap, isn't it? Crap. Because the guy quit over it. He said it's the worst he's ever been treated. No, all the calls that he's ever been to, nothing was worse than how the RCMP treated him in those final 2 weeks. What he said, the way we were treated after this is absolutely disgusting, said Mills, adding, it was the reason he retired from the RCMP. And it kind of, it kind of reminds me of me, in a way. You're like, okay, yeah. I can't work here anymore. I'm not going to sit around and fight this. But you're probably going to be surprised with what I'm about to tell you, okay? So stick around. Mills blames a couple of people, okay? I think one's Robert Doyle. He's a superintendent or something like that. And a girl with the last name Sullivan. I guess Mills says something about Sullivan when he testifies. I don't know. She didn't like it, so she put in an affidavit and gave her side, sticking up for herself. Sullivan's not even working. Okay, she's off now. There's so many people that are off from this mass casualty. And I don't want to sit here and beat up on Sullivan, okay? She's a girl. I don't want to do it. But I am going to say a couple of facts here. I don't even need to read this. I don't know, because I know the story. During this week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, Mills and Ert and his boss, they're going back and forth with this Doyle and Sullivan. I've read all the emails. I've read all the correspondence. I've read all the WhatsApps. And everybody's going back in a circle. We can't give them leave. It's against policy to give them leave. But he's not asking for leave. He's asking to work together. The simplest decision that anybody could make is just to say yes to Tim Mills. But nobody can make it. Well, it's not in policy. There's nothing on policy. And they keep on talking about this leave thing. But Mills ain't asking for leave. It's against policy. We can't just have them leave like that. They can only leave if they go to a doctor and a doctor puts them off. But they don't want to be put off. Somehow they did this in Moncton. It was pretty easy for those members. They got 14 days. But none of these morons can figure it out. Nobody will step up and help out these guys that just went through the worst experience of their entire careers. So they just say no to him. Nah. Sullivan said it allowed Mills to testify several false and slanderous statements about her to the commission. Why am I telling you this story? Because it grossed me out. Because what WhatsApp messages between Robert Doyle and Kelly Sullivan during this was going on, while Mills was saying, can our team just decompress together? Robert Doyle and Kelly Sullivan have a conversation about it on WhatsApp. But before I read this WhatsApp, actually, you know what? I read her affidavit, guys, that she submitted. And I'm not gonna bore you to death, but there's something in it I need to tell you about, okay? She's given her side of it because they're going after her. That's what I think. It's my opinion, okay? In her affidavit, it's lengthy. ERT members believed it would be better for their mental illness to work together on administrative duties for another week. She's saying she had no authority to allow that to happen. These psychologists, it's 2 or 3 psychologists, they talk to the team. The psychologists get back to Kelly Sullivan. And this is what the psychologist tells Kelly Sullivan. After speaking with these cops, the psychologist talking, Miss Nagy reported that it went well and that no one was at risk of requiring medical leave. Okay, they're not asking for medical leave. But as a psychologist saying no one's at risk because they want to work. As the EMRO, I did ask specifically how the ERT members were doing given their role. And Mrs. Nagy said they were exhausted, but fine. Oh, they're fine. They're exhausted, guys. But they're fine. Oh, that jumped out at me. Should jump out at you too. They're fine. They're fine. They're just exhausted. Go back to your police station exhausted. What's the definition of exhausted? Chronic tiredness or sleepiness, headache, dizziness, sore or aching muscles, muscle weakness, slow reflexes and responses, impaired decision-making and judgment, moodiness, irritability, impaired hand-to-eye coordination, appetite loss, reduced immune system function, blurry vision, short-term memory problems, poor concentration, hallucinations, reduced ability to pay attention to the situation at hand. They're just exhausted. They're fine. Maybe I was exhausted at the end. You imagine that, a psychologist doesn't understand Kelly and the psychologist don't understand what exhausted means. She's saying it. She's writing it down to help herself. This is her rebuttal. This is her reasons, her grounds for doing what she did. She thinks this helps her by writing the word exhausted. No, the psychologist said they're fine. They're just exhausted. So these silly billies, they can't make a decision for Tim Mills. Tim Mills leaves. He quits. Okay. WhatsApp. That comes out. That came out, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And for Tim, it probably feels good that it came out. Because this is what they say about Tim while they're trying to make this decision, okay? Kelly messages Doyle. Just spoke to Bernie. Moncton members were given 14 days. Moncton members were given 14 days off. How did she find that out? By talking to Bernie. Doyle says, interesting. But given that they did that in Moncton, doesn't necessarily make it the correct response. Fighting. Doesn't want them to have it. Why? Just because Moncton did it doesn't mean we have to do it. It might not be right. Maybe it's not the correct response. What's wrong with you guys? Oh, we can't find anything in policy. Do you guys know that policy is just a guideline? Just because it's in policy or not in policy doesn't make it right. It's not a Bible, guys. And then he says this, I've never been one to have much faith in what's been done in Jittery J. And I'm like, what? What's this guy? I can't believe that another division would talk about another division like that. When I was in E Division, which is British Columbia, I never talked about K Division, Alberta. Jittery J? Do you know what the members, what they went through in Moncton? And he's putting down the members in Moncton? Calling them jittery? That's gross. Doyle, I had a closed door session with Chris on ERT today. Not good. What happened with ERT? I'll fill you in tomorrow, but it's not good. Kelly, okay, I'm curious. What is up now, though? Doyle, ERT has gone completely anti-management. Wives have written the Minister of Justice. It's not anti-management, Doyle. You're not a pro member. I can't stand it. I can't stand when bosses would automatically go, oh, he's anti-management. They're just being anti-management, guys. We're doing a great job here, Kelly. They just don't like management. They're upset because they're anti-management. We're awesome. You just have a problem with management. Then he writes, don't breathe a word to anyone. Oh, here we go. It's a shit show now with the DOJ. There's that word again, eh? It's a real shit show. Shit show going on here. God, they just love saying that. Don't bosses love saying that? Well, I heard it was a real shit show last night. It's not what I heard. Heard it was a real shit show. So I guess these ERT members' wives, they write the bigwigs saying, hey, you're not taking care of my... How awesome is that? You're not taking care of my husband. And these two are freaking out over, oh my God. Because they can't make a decision. Then he writes this. We are still trying to get the details of what they said. We need to know what they said. I'm sure it wasn't letters of support and compliments. Of course not. Why would it be? This, all over, they're wanting to circle jerk for 2 weeks and not getting their way. That's what Tim Mills wanted to do with his group. They wanted to jerk off together. That's what he wrote. No compassion. Absolutely none. That's what you think? And what if they did? I think they deserve to jerk off together. You idiot. Where were you? Where were you when this was going down? Oh, you're in your king-size bed sleeping. You were tweeping. That's what you were doing when this was going down. And you're going to call these guys a bunch of circle jerkers. It had nothing to do with finding dead bodies, seeing the body of a friend. No, it had nothing to do with that. Just want to jerk off. Darren and Dawn have apparently tried to rein them in. Yeah, get them in. We got to rein them in. They're anti-management. They're going corrupt. And it's only gotten worse. Tim Mills is a piece of shit. That's what he wrote. That's what he wrote about that ERT member. He's a piece of shit. What did Tim do? Why would you write that? You know what she said? Yes, he clearly is. That's what Kelly said. Honestly, I don't know what they think this will accomplish. Do we need mediation for God's sakes? Perhaps we need to rebuild the team. Sounds like negativity is ruling. I also think MPF is making it worse. Yeah, that's why this is happening. MPF is making it worse, guys. Who are we blaming so far? We're blaming their anti-management. We're blaming the NPF. We're blaming negativity. Blaming Tim Mills, of course, and IRT members who are addicted to jerking off. Blaming everybody but themselves. One last point, guys. I just found this interesting, okay? She wrote this in her affidavit. During the evening of Sunday, April 19th. What evening is that? April 19th is when it was over, okay? They just killed Wortman. She goes home and she says, I reviewed the Moncton report. And she reviewed how the members got 14 days off in Moncton. Well, if she knew that on April 19th, why did she say in the WhatsApp days, maybe even a week later, that Bernie told her about Moncton? But she says that after this 22 people were murdered, she went home that night and reviewed the Moncton report? I don't know. Just sounds like garbage to me. I guarantee you that Doyle has a code of conduct now, and probably Sullivan, for talking like that about the IRT members, about Tim Mills. I get it. They didn't think their conversation was going to be released. But this is what he really thought. This is what he really believed. Talking to an IRT member that went through what he went through and calling him a piece of shit? Oh, they're just exhausted. Pieces of shit. I had a staff sergeant call one of my members a shit show. Oh, what a shit show. Yeah. It's not me. He's the shit show. He's the problem. They're just negative anti-management. Pieces of shit. He finds Heidi Stevenson's body and then calls him a piece of shit. They kill Wortman. They finish the job. Pieces of shit. No, they're going back to their police stations and they're going to continue to work on GD. I mean, I could go on forever about it. I don't have a big closing statement, but I don't need one. Well. And what's he going to get? What's Doyle going to get, right? In his code of conduct? Discourteous behavior or whatever. There's no punishment. No punishment for it. And I don't even understand why nobody's talking about his code of conduct. Well, Clint, it drags down the RCMP. Bad publicity. No, you still got to talk about it, guys. You still have to state the facts. We're constantly talking about how members are on code of conduct, but we can't talk about this guy being on a code of conduct? Under investigation? We can't talk about that? Why wouldn't you? You have to for Tim Mills. You have to stick up for Tim Mills. Oh, he's not working anymore. Doyle is. From home. I'll end this part with this, okay? Robert Doyle, Superintendent Robert Doyle, was just awarded the Queen's Jubilee Medal the other day. Don't know if it's true. That's what I was told. And yes, Tim, you can't make it up. You can't make it up. End of the world? No, it's not. Not the end of the world, but it's an insight of what these managers and bosses. And I actually kind of feel bad for the Kelly Sullivan. She's working with him. She's working with this guy. She's a civilian. Probably partly, and I'm just guessing, probably controlled by the Doyle. You know, here's Doyle sitting back on the WhatsApp saying, we're not giving them that. They're not getting it. They just want to circle jerk. Yeah, that's why they're doing this. Let's move on. Let's talk about something different. I am freezing to death. I got to put on my jacket. or a house coat. Got this at the Barcello. Don't tell anyone. I found this story interesting, guys, because I did a video about it. Why am I out of breath? I did a video about it 2 years ago. I don't even remember when. You know, no kids want to be cops anymore. You want to know why? Because of teachers. A couple of dimwit teachers got together in Vancouver and they're like, we can't have police here anymore, okay? Police are bad. They basically tell kids that police are bad. They set that example. They kicked all the cops out of something like 18 schools in Vancouver a year or two ago. A couple of girls came up with this decision. Yep. And then yesterday, or 2 days ago, Vancouver School Board votes to reintroduce police into more than a dozen high schools. So now they're going to bring them back. This world is weird. Do you remember when I said this? Trustees voted Monday night to remove uniformed officers from 17 schools. 17 schools. They voted 8-1 on Monday to do this. Months of debate. They say there is much work to be done. Don't they love saying that? There's much work to be done. It's important that all students feel safe, secure, and included in our schools. Carmen Cho added, the chair. Because I guess when police officers go through there, the kids don't feel safe and secure. It's such a crock of shit. Listen to this. The vast majority of overall respondents were neutral or in favor of the program. The majority. Vast. Were in favor of the school liaison program. They cancel it anyways. Half of Indigenous respondents had negative views of the program. How many does that account for? 10? Like, what are you talking? Like, how many? Well, what about the other half that had positive reviews about the program? We cater to a small amount of people, really. In the end, that's what we do. Every time, all the time. How many does that account for? 10? Like, what are you talking? Like, how many? How many is that? 5? Nobody knows. Lois Pedley said it was with those Black and Indigenous students in mind that she and fellow trustee Barb Parrott crafted a motion to cancel the program. So these two dimwits just decide that it's a good idea to kick the police out, even though the vast majority wanted them to stay. She's concerned that there might be an opportunity to recruit students to the profession. That's a bad thing? It's a bad thing to be a cop. Teachers do not want kids to be police officers. They don't want to encourage it. That just blew me away when this came out. They'd rather the kids be recruited by gangs. I know it's a boring topic, but it's interesting to me that people can actually make these kinds of decisions. Having a cop in a school is unbelievable. I mean, they are the most popular police officers. It's a reason why some cops become police cops. Do you want your kid to be around police? Integrity, honesty, professionalism, all that stuff. That's what they have. And you want your kids to interact with somebody like that. You want your kids to feel safe. But according to these couple of broads, they're saying, well, with the police there, the kids feel unsafe. It was such a lie. It was such a lie. It was such bullshit. It wasn't the truth. No kid feels unsafe because there's a police officer in the school. It's just amazing to me that they had the power and authority to make that decision. I mean, the cops have been in the Vancouver schools for the past 49 years. And they just craft an idea saying, let's get them out. So the new mayor, in Vancouver, gets elected, and guess what happens? The shift is changing. The tide is changing, guys. On Monday night, 5 of the board's 9 trustees voted in favor of sending a letter to Vancouver Police Chief Adam Palmer, a plan to bring back cops to schools. And Lois Pedley and a lot of people are angry at this, guys, which I love. This meant efforts by the Vancouver Greens, 2 trustees, Lois Pedley and Janet Fraser, and Susie Mann, whatever. They want more consultation before making a decision. Were overruled at every turn. Something, I don't know what they're saying there. We need time to examine the role of the police in the schools. Gibberish. I love this part here. In a statement released after the vote, Green trustee Lois Pedley said the VPD has not addressed the issues of systemic racism within the force. Yeah, they did address it. The chief of VPD addressed it. He came out and said there is no systemic racism in our force. And I'm disgusted that you would even ask that question. Lois, he addressed it. See what you get away with when you call things racist all the time? You take a great program and you destroy it. And you make children more unsafe. Good job, Lois. And Barb, Parrot, I'm glad you retired. But I thought it was cool. I thought this mayor of Vancouver, I was wondering, what made him decide to go down that road, the right road. And he says this. This is the reason. And it is so true.
You've said gangs targeted Chinese teens when you were a student at Churchill, and as a result, I believe a friend picked a fight with you. Can you elaborate on how the school liaison officer helped you in that situation?
Sure. So the situation was I was good friends with, I'm not going to mention his name, but in grade 8, we're in French class together, and, we're buddies. And then by grade 10, he joined, it's either the Lotus or the Red Eagles, 2 prominent gangs at the time. I don't know if they're still around, but he joined, and one of his, I don't know if it was his initiation, but he had to pick a fight with me. And he basically had to jump. He jumped me and started, throwing fists at me, and we were friends. And he was forced to do it. And if it wasn't for the, school liaison officer program, I'd have nowhere to turn to. And, just their presence there, but also having someone to be able to talk to made a big difference.
How?
Well, just being like someone being there, right? Not being fearful at school, not having, I could show up at school. And if there were any problems, I could actually go there and I knew there was someone there. So my experience, it was actually really helpful.
I like that guy. I think his last name is Sim. He's my favorite mayor. I don't even know his last name. Ken? Ken Sim? Yeah, Ken Sim. I like that guy. Everything he said right there just makes total sense. He has common sense. This stuff is all common sense. He should be more than a mayor. He talks real. He talks normal. Let's talk about common sense for a second here. New York Mayor Adams faces backlash for move to involuntarily hospitalize homeless people. This mayor in New York, maybe he's my favorite too. How do you fix the homeless population? This mayor says, well, we hospitalize them. I like how they write it. Involuntarily hospitalize them. No, it's called apprehending them. Okay? Why do you apprehend them? Because they're crazy. Clint, why are they crazy? Because they live on the streets, that's why. They need to get better. You apprehend them, you make them get better. Nobody deserves to be sick on the streets. And so his idea to fix homelessness, and I've been saying it for 2 years, you apprehend them. And that's what he's starting to do. He's cracking down on the homeless population. Officials will begin hospitalizing more homeless people by involuntarily providing care to those deemed to be in a psychiatric crisis. Oh, and they're all outraged, right? Homeless people are more likely to be victims of crimes than perpetrators. Well, that's one more reason, you dimwit, that you need to apprehend them. More likely to be a victim of a crime. It's unsafe. Anyways, just short blurb. I liked it. He's the first for... I've been saying it. See, I like it because I've been saying this for so long now. You have to apprehend these guys. Clean up your city. Make them better. Force them to get treatment. And finally, somebody's doing it. I'm kind of shocked. A guy named Jamie sent me this, and I'm like, oh, wow, I've been saying that. I didn't know anybody else was even thinking it. Guys, I found this story really bizarre. Almost doesn't even really make sense. Fairy Creek blockades. Remember those are the protests? Environmentalists, they didn't want any logging done. You know, don't log. And the cops had to go up. This group of police, and I'll tell you the name of their section in a second, but there's a section in the RCMP. They go to these protests. They help out the community, the detachment, because there's not enough members. So there's a group that will go to these big protests, pipeline protests, Fairy Creek protests, and they usually I don't even know what they do. Okay, they keep the peace. They arrest when they have to, take people away. Now there's a member within this organization, within this section. I guess he's a whistleblower now. This is what he did. He complained. He complained about his section. I want you to read his complaints. An officer was willing to risk voicing concerns about police behavior to superiors, Mirsky said. It takes a lot of courage to be a whistleblower, does it? Does it though? In any organization. But a whistleblower within the RCMP is a whole other level. I could only imagine the amount of pressure. The cop has 13 years experience, remains on the force, but resigned from the RCMP's controversial Community Industry Response Group, CIRG. Controversial, guys. You want to know what controversial is? Forget where now. 4. Something like 4 RCMP vehicles burnt to a crisp outside of a hotel. Nobody's talking about that. I can't even get really any information on it. I mean, isn't that a state of emergency there? Why don't you report that? So the cops volunteer for the unit and serve on a part-time basis, returning to their home communities. And so this whistleblower, this RCMP member, he reported instances of questionable police behavior, a story by Canada's National Observer revealed. And I'm like, okay, this is going to sound weird. I need to read what problem did this cop have, okay? Listen to the problems he had. Right off the bat, guys. Allegations police smashed car windows. And he lost me right there. I'm like, so he's complaining that police were smashing car windows. That doesn't even make any sense. What's the full story? Were they smashing the windows because they had to smash the windows? Maybe it's possible. It just doesn't add up that the cops are walking around smashing windows for no reason. Improperly seized personal property. What? You had a problem with how the cops were exhibiting their items? I'm baffled. Doesn't even make sense. That's your complaint? Fraternized with industry and private security workers. Do you get it? Do you get it? They're talking to security workers. This cop didn't like it. He or she, I don't know who. You want to hear this one? And wore controversial thin blue line patches. The police officer has a problem with the blue line patch. Any cop that has a problem with that patch, don't ever work with me. You resigned because nobody liked you. Can you imagine another cop being mad because you're wearing the thin blue line patch? What side are you on? What team are you on? He's wearing the patch. I'm telling on you. I'm telling Corporal. You're not supposed to be breaking a rule. You're not supposed to be wearing that patch. This is who we're dealing with. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more to the story. It is a news article. Trust in the news. But this guy sounds a little haywire. You should call me. Tell me is this the full story? You got a problem with a cop wearing a thin blue line patch?
He's breaking a rule. It's not allowed.
This is a pattern of behavior by the RCMP while policing protests tied to resource extraction industries. You know, it never looks good when police show up. It always looks dirty when you're trying to arrest these people. They're screaming and yelling. They're not even in pain. They make it look bad on purpose. We need to disband the SERG, BC Federation of Labor Delegates. Another great decision, guys, by dimwits. Alleged violations of human rights. Attacks on indigenous peoples, journalists, and protesters. When you have a unit sent around the province that operates as if it is above the law and the charter doesn't apply to its activities, that's highly problematic. Above the law. It becomes ingrained. Is there any wonder that we have a problem with policing in BC, particularly the RCMP in smaller communities? Oh, I love this part. I almost forgot about it. Repeated complaints of intimidation and mistreatment of detainees, particularly indigenous peoples. Well, of course those are going to be the ones that are complaining. Those were the ones that we were arresting. Anyways, what's my point? I don't know. Could you imagine having this guy in your watch? Just thinking back. Good God. Or girl. Maybe it's a girl. I don't even know. I was going to take a bunch of calls, but I think I'll do that next podcast. And, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my dumb channel. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.